Welcome back, guys. Mike here, Money, Marriage, and Media. And today we're back with 8 at the table. Why good girls turn to bad so easily, especially the pretty ones, cash in their looks. But you know what the look on my face says? We need 1,000 subscribers. That's the goal. So let's go ahead and see what we got here today. Again, what are we looking for? High level conversation. Why? Because the gender war is dumb. And we need to start having some in-depth conversations to start breaking down why each side is fighting the other side so that we can finally move forward and start rebuilding our community. Let's go.
Those two things together into
what I love. Go ahead.
2023, right? I have, for example, been through an experience. This is how trauma works, and it was overwhelming. Something about it just was like, whew, I didn't know how to cope with that, and I didn't see it coming. You're going to get me one time. That's the way trauma works. You're going to get me that one time, and you're not going to get me again. So I'm going to figure out something, whether it's by being, more presentable, like I'm going to be pleasing to everybody, and that's how I'm going to get more of what I want, or if I'm going to, listen to a podcast about having, what have I heard it called, a starting lineup of 5 men that I date so that not one of them can hurt me. Putting money before people is a really good way to protect yourself from the natural consequences of knowing people, right?
It's also a great way to protect yourself from marriage. It's just, man.
Like, you don't know what they gonna do. It's certain uncertainty. And if we can't sort of get to a place of like, I just have to sit with what I don't know, right? We really aren't good at dating. It sort of becomes a game of trying to predict and sort
I
of
agree.
get the other person in some sort of scorekeeping thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're really going, what did you do for me so I can do this for you? If we're even keeping that score, we're already in a bad place. That scorekeeping is a signal that you're already not getting something met. And so you're like, let me make sure I let him know every little thing that I did for him so he knows all the things he should do for me.
Petty.
And a lot of people, if I'm honest, a lot of women get really worried that they don't know the right way to be right now.
Yeah.
They don't know whether the right way to be is to be hard and have a lot of really strict boundaries, or to be really compassionate and be really open and give people a chance. It's like people just want to be loved.
Yeah. So what she's talking about speaks to one of the issues in our community. Remember, there are a couple of them that are working against us simultaneously. In particular, what we're talking about here is the vetting process. About women don't know that that's a natural occurrence in society. Because why? Because women have very little knowledge about the male experience, right? Why should you? Men approach you, so it's not like yeah. But the point is that it's one of the issues that we've got to fix. Again, there are simultaneous problems going on, right? But one of the issues is we have a broken vetting process in our community. Now, as a young lady, there is a big advocate for you is going to be your father, right? If the father's not available, right? Because we have the most unwed children, the highest rate of children born out of wedlock. Okay, well then that means that you need to go to another older male family member who loves you and who you respect their opinion, and you need to start asking them to help you vet the men that you're interested in. Okay, because I agree with her 100% that we don't know how to date, but I also think dating is dumb, in my opinion. So, the vetting process needs to be rebuilt in our community so that we can start removing some of the fear that's attached with marriage and long-term relationships.
But because they don't feel loved, they just want to feel in control. The old narrative is like, men really see you as their property. So like, you better choose a man who at least can provide a life for you that doesn't make you feel bad being his property. And I do think there's some industries and there's some places where that is still kind of the feeling. I think, you think of old school marriage, we're talking about like dowries, right? Most people, when we talk about dowries, I guess don't really consider that the woman is part of a dowry. Like, you're giving in India right now, you get a washer, a dryer, and a wife, right? Like, they're all together in a thing. And when we monetize marriage like that, it's mostly a contractual agreement. this idea that it's romantic is actually relatively new.
New.
Right. And everybody kind of knows that, but then social media blows it up and it starts to be sort of a racist conversation, right? Because everybody's watching Real Housewives and chilling. Nobody cares that these women literally have no job. I was just watching an episode of 8 at the Table. You said a life of leisure.
Right.
Nobody cares that they have a life of leisure because
I purposely skipped that episode.
we've seen it so much. We've seen those women and we know what they look like. And in our 90s movies, they were everybody's pretty wife on like, what was that movie with Mary-Kate and Ashley? It was like the wife, you know, for the dad. She'd just be around. She don't have a job. She just has a dog. Like, we're fine with that, you know, and it's okay with us that that's who people marry who have money. But then in the Black community, we come from more of a scarcity of stuff.
And see, this is why I say we need more married people making content, because again, our view of marriage in general is skewed to what Hollywood has presented to us, and it's not. She just talked about it. We watching these people on TV and on social media and on YouTube, and their lifestyles are anything but average. And then when you try and apply it to an average life, all of a sudden now you got a 54, over 50% divorce rate because they don't work. It's not real. So I think this is why I say we need more people, more average people talking about relationships, because again, we need more examples of how these things can work. There is no one way to make a marriage work, and there is no one type of marriage. I think that's one of the major issues that we need to address. Again, it's one of those problems that's affecting our community simultaneously, is that, if the marriage isn't running like this, then I'm out, I'm done. You can throw that stat in there about, 60 to 70% of divorces are initiated by women. The point is that we need more examples of working relationships, so that we can start to say it's not that you need to model your relationship exactly like somebody on social media. No, what I'm saying is that, okay, it's just like your salad bar. Take what you want and leave the rest. Figure out what works for you, so that you can break it down, and you guys can come together and figure out and work out a deal that's going to benefit both of you. I say this all the time about let's keep going.
And so there's a conversation about everybody getting money. We all want money. So then to say, hey, women in this culture are hoes when they do this. You know what I mean? Women in this culture are messing up by prioritizing it. It's like they're doing what everyone else is doing. And this is really what happens with Black people in general. We do what white people do, and then people are like, well, why would you do that? Why would you think that's okay? Where'd you get that idea from? And it's like, even the audacity to think working hard gets you money, right? And then your parents got to tell you, no, you got to work twice as hard as that person to make the same amount of money, right? That's the sort of thing where it's like we're growing up in the same world. So if on some level you think this is what I'm worth, why am I thinking I'm worth something different than what you think I'm worth? If I'm seeing that people are throwing money at women from the time I'm little, and I'm like, I ain't got no money, but I see they've been throwing money at these girls over here, and I know what those girls over there look like, that's a really easy mental shortcut as far as I'm concerned. It's like, what are you worth? At the very least, your body is worth money. Like, we all know that. Every woman kind of knows that. And that's what I'm saying. It's not a hard or long message to understand in this country.
Or a new message.
At all.
We have to, we just skipped over a whole bunch of variables that were, so I do think that I agree, right, to a certain extent, that we do see two different cultures, specifically in this country, right? One will do one role where they just have the dog and they're not doing much in terms of the women. And then we do have the other culture who did grow up with scarcity, right? But I also do think, in understanding cultures, the best thing about my personal life, and I wanted to actually touch on this on the...
He actually makes a valid point, and I'm a little disappointed that he made it, though, because, again, you got two extremes. One's growing up in scarcity, and the other one's growing up in extreme life of lavish. But if the majority of people, Black people in particular, are middle class, where's that representation at? Need more married people, need more average married people making content.
Jason Lee episode, but about code switching. And my life has been a code switch since the day I was born. I have a Black family, I have a Dominican family, I have a white family, and I grew up with all three, and they lived in they lived in the hood, they lived in the Spanish zone, and then they lived in a really well-off suburban area. So growing up, I would go to all three different cultures, predominantly based living. And I learned that every one of them are different. And what I will say is, as black people, I think that personally we try to emulate a lot of the things that the white people do, but we try to make our own rules to it, which is conflicting with why some of their rules actually work.
Meaning like what?
So for example, if and rightfully so, because I do think that it shouldn't be this way, but it's a double-edged sword. So the woman that you're talking about with the Mary Kate and Ashley example, where she was just walking around with a bag and whatnot, there was literally no pushback ever. There was really no voice for her. Now, I do believe that women should have a voice, as should everybody, right?
What do you think keeps
Wait,
people
what?
single?
That example made no sense. What does that have to do with? Okay, we're just gonna move on because they're asking another question here. So I'm hoping that the reason why it jump cut like that, because what he's talking about was just too far out there to keep going.
That they don't notice.
That they don't notice. I was gonna say you born single, so you ain't got.
Hold on, let's go back.
You weren't born single.
Should have a voice, as should everybody, right?
What do you think keeps people single that they don't notice?
That they don't notice. I was gonna say you born single, so you ain't gotta stay
I wasn't
single.
born single.
You weren't born single.
No.
I was gonna say
I came in here and I knew I had like 12 soulmates, but I was gonna ruin like 7 and not meet 3 and end up with 2.
We leaving just how we come.
I know. I was gonna say. I mean, what keeps people single? I think for one thing, some of the most common dating advice that people are paying for right now is to just date people you wouldn't normally date. That's
I
it.
think that's terrible.
You think people should do that?
I think to some degree, I think you should just meet.
We seen what that happens like here at 8 at the table.
But here's.
I don't advise
do you,
it.
but I mean, what you've been meeting people casually? It's been
No, we've been
exploding?
seeing we've been seeing events, all types of stuff.
I guess here's the thing.
We meet a lot of people.
At this point, dating apps are just as random as like being at a bar and having somebody walk up to you. Most people are on dating apps. It's not like you're finding some select, few people on these dating apps. So when you go on dating apps, you're also dealing with a bunch of people who are looking through a bunch of people, right? And so it dehumanizes an experience that's not really how you would normally go about evaluating people. And this is what I mean about friendship. I have a friend. I meet them however I meet them. As we do things together, I'm like, you know what? I like the way you think. I like the way you move. I like the way that you do stuff. It's through these shared experiences that we get to know our kind of system, the way that we affect each other. You don't have to be perfect to be in love and have a good relationship. In fact, you don't even have to be exactly the same. You can have a lot of things that are not the same.
I think that's the problem with dating apps,
Yeah.
I saw this thing on Twitter yesterday. It was really bizarre. So these two people, they met on a dating app, and before they planned their first date, she asked the guy if he didn't mind filling out a questionnaire that she had set up.
That's dope.
How many questions are we talking
It was about I
That's
think
what
it
we
was
do.
20 it was 26 questions. She created this questionnaire herself. It started off pretty generic questions.
What's your favorite color?
Regular shit,
What's
right?
your size?
Then it kind of and then it got a little weird. Like it was a toilet paper question. Do you think that the toilet paper goes like under, or do you
Over.
roll it, or over?
Oh,
Or-
see, it's overkill. So, you know what? Let me finish this out and then I'm gonna give my thoughts on this because
I'm not a preference
Under?
person with the toilet
I
paper.
used to be.
Nah, I'm preference.
I used to be
No,
weird.
I'm
about it.
meticulous.
Now my husband.
It
I
gotta
know
be
a lot
under.
of people have preferences on it. I be feeling weird when I put my toilet paper roll on.
If I gotta
Like,
go
people
this
are
way
gonna
for it,
come
I'm
in
gonna
and
be
judge
tight.
No, yeah, I don't do that.
Anyway.
Under,
So,
yeah.
and then there was like a question about like if you had a homosexual child, like how would you handle it? Just real personal questions.
Oh wow.
And
I think that's
after going through the questions, he was just like, yeah, absolutely not. Like, I'm not answering this because it's like you're going to determine whether we go out or not based on how I answer these questions. And one, I understood his need to not want to do it, because it's just like, well, we can go out and get to know each other like regular human beings, instead of me like having to fill out what kind of seems like a test before
It
you
is.
decide, like, okay, yeah, pass. They didn't pass my test, so I'm just gonna be like real cut with it, and
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to continue to try to get to know you. So honestly, I thought that the questionnaire was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But I just think that dating apps specifically, that's what's wrong with it. Like, we're trying to find people too much like ourselves, and that's probably not always going to be the best thing to do.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm never going to be one to advocate for men getting on dating apps, just because the chances of you finding, getting dates on there is slim to none. That game is rigged to for you. It's set up for you to fail. Okay, too many men, not enough women who are actually serious about anything, right? And then, now I should also preface this by saying that I believe that dating is dumb. And, number one reason, when people tell you the number one reason for dating is so we can get to know each other. No, that's a bunch of BS, because you can get to know somebody over the phone. You don't have to go nowhere. So I'm always going to be in favor of meeting people in at some point. You have to jump offline. You need to jump offline as quickly as possible. If you meet somebody on social media, you need to get off social media as soon as possible. Get on the phone, FaceTime, meet in person is even better. But nah, you could, and it's because of stuff that they were just talking about. You got this list, and people are more than a list of questions on a piece of paper. Now, true enough, you do have to get to know them. But my thing is, if that list is that important to you, then work out those conversations, and have those conversations come up organically during a conversation. You're talking to this person, you want to get to know them, work in those questions organically, instead of just having the guy just read through all that stuff, because that seems too cold and calculated. Because instantly, she's right. It's just like that. Every guy's going to think that, or most guys are going to think that. I'm not filling this out, because I am more than just the answers on this piece of paper. It's the same thing. I mean, guys could, well, most guys are not going to do that, because most guys are looking for a reason to qualify women, whereas women are looking for a reason to disqualify men. Hence why this woman thought that list was a great idea, because, well, if he just answers these questions, then I can go ahead and disqualify him real quick. Take the time. Just because you're in the process of getting to know somebody doesn't mean that they won't make a good associate for you. They may not be your husband or wife, but it's somebody that may be valuable to your network. You never know. They could introduce you to your husband or future wife. You never know. So I don't count people out like that. Now, again, we're always going to keep the goal in mind. Is that if that person, if you're trying to get married and that person isn't, how much time do you want to waste on them? At that point, but again, we're not talking about you just stone cold and come up and ask them. Well, if you're not married, if you're not trying to get married, then build up, get to know the person. You don't have to ask them that question right at the very beginning. I mean, give it some time. I would say during that course of a couple of days of phone conversations, you ask them then. But even then, it's not like you're trying to get married in 6 weeks. Perfect question to ask, guy or girl. If the right person came along, could you see yourself marrying them in the next 12 to 18 months? You just throw it out there like that. If they say no, okay, well, if that doesn't fit your timetable, then you know where you stand. But also remember that during that time period, you're not just talking to that one person over the phone. But look, guys, this is a great conversation. 8 at the Table is definitely a high level conversation. And they regularly have these. So go check out 8 at the Table. Go subscribe to their videos, right? Make sure you subscribe to this channel too, right? Because we got that goal of 1,000 subscribers. But yeah, I'm going to say goes to the next time. Peace. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. But do me another favor. Like and subscribe. But also check out these here. Either subscribe or watch videos. One or the other. I don't know which side. But hey, all right.